So I'm a big believer in, the fact that there's no coincidences in life, and I believe that people are put in our path at different times for different reasons. And our guest today, who is DeWayne Ballhawk Autrey, is a professional football player. And I met DeWayne through Nation's Best Football, who is, in fact, the sponsor of this podcast. So this is being presented by Nation's Best. I'd encourage you guys to go check them out as they highlight youth, high school, collegiate, and professional level athletes. So make sure to go check them out and follow them. I'll put their link here in the description at Nation's Best Football. But I met DeWayne through Nation's Best with my relationship there. And over the last couple of years, I've gotten to know DeWayne a little bit better and have gotten to chat with him. I spoke with him on the podcast I used to run for Nation's Best. And this time I get a chance to bring him onto my platform and hear his story a little bit more. I love this guy. In our conversation today, you're going to hear stories about his professional career, but we're also going to get to know him off the field and what he enjoys doing and why he is so adamant about being a good family man as a father, why he's so adamant about giving back to the youth in his community, and what he plans on doing when the football days are done, what he's expecting to do and what he's moving towards. And we'll also talk about how being a Christian athlete has helped him in his journey as well, and his beliefs and how it's helped him stay the course, so to speak. We'll talk about the lessons he's learned through football and how that's helped him in his regular life as well. So make sure to tap into this one. It's an awesome opportunity to learn about somebody else who is playing at a high level still and has to adapt to change left and right, but who has their quote unquote ducks in a row, as you'll hear in this interview, and has done the thing, and they're doing the thing. And DeWayne's a great example of just doing the work and being a professional. And I think it's something that we all need to listen to. So make sure to tap into this one. This is the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, the host of the show, creator of the show back from 2017. And as you guys heard in the introduction, I'm trying to build out my YouTube platform, which I've never done in the last 7 years. So if you would kindly take a second, give me a follow over on the YouTube platform, that would be awesome. So if this is your first time listening to the show, or if it's not, just go over to YouTube and hit that follow button if you don't mind. But I would say this, the audio side of the podcast, if you're listening to the podcast, that's where all my listeners are from. I want to give a shout out to all of you who have tuned into the show. I appreciate all of you. Everyone that's downloaded the show in 182 countries and all 50 states who have listened to the podcast in the last 7 years. Thank you so much for being a part of the journey, and welcome aboard if you're brand new. I appreciate you guys being here. So as you guys heard in the introduction, bringing on a friend of mine whom I met through my connections in the media with like Nation's Best Football, who, by the way, is the presenting sponsor of this podcast, as you heard in the intro. His name is DeWayne Ballhawk Autrey, and he's a professional football player. The dude has played for quite some time, and we're going to get to learn more about his journey and kind of where he's at right now in regards to his professional career and what his plans are moving forward, what he does for, his communities and everything that he's learned along the way. So, DeWayne, thanks for joining the show, brother.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on, boss. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. It's been a long time coming. We were trying to coordinate this for quite some time, and I'm just glad we finally were able to find the time that works, because you're always moving around. So tell us, DeWayne, at this particular point in your career, what's the news on your front?
Basically, I'll be signing this year. Well, I did sign this year, playing the AFL with the ICT regulators out of Wichita, Kansas. So that's a big, long time coming, playing in the arena realm, and that being top tier level. Finally get to, make my presence and enter into that, and play on that top level.
Yes, sir. So going into the AFL, it's interesting because here in Idaho, we have the Idaho Horsemen. They're an indoor football team, and just this year, literally on Friday, at the time of this recording, just a couple days back, They played their first game in the NAL, which was a step up for them. And I noticed there's just a few differences in the rules and whatnot. Like there's a net behind the end zone and a couple other things that are there. But what would you say would be the biggest difference between that you're expecting from the AFL being the top tier of Arena League football compared to the other that you've played in over the last decade or so?
I mean, when it comes to arena football, playing as long as I played right now, arena football is just honestly it's a lot faster. Honestly, knowing the game, knowing where you're supposed to be at on the field, you really don't have time to think too much. So it's really just being on top of your game. Honestly, playing top tier talent, and it's just always going. Being conditioned. With the AFL, I mean, honestly, you're going to be having some of those players, well, most of those players, going both ways. So really conditioning right now, playing both sides of the ball, because you didn't really see it too much playing in the leagues that I have played in. But now it's going to be something that you're going to be seeing a lot more of.
So here's the question I have for you. You've been playing for a while, and just a few years back, you got a championship. And I want to know what you've learned since that time of actually winning a championship in professional football, and what you can take from that time and what you have taken from that time in your preparation for each season moving forward.
Definitely being goal oriented, playing and being on a team and war organization, and that's from top to bottom where the goal is championship, and everybody, is aligned. As long as everybody's staying on that, like it's something that's very possible. But, winning those championships, I learned everything isn't gonna go as planned, off the field, behind the scenes. There's gonna be so many things, happening that's gonna basically, disturb you and turn you off that course. But if you're, mentally prepared, not only you but those around you, and like I said, that goal is that championship, you'll be able to stay focused. But definitely, it's going to be things that's going to happen throughout those years. I mean, throughout that season. You're not going to get along, and that's from top to bottom, on and off the field. But like I said, as long as you're staying focused on that championship, you're able to hold that, net together, it's possible. But definitely, it's going to be some ups and downs throughout the years, and let alone, holding the team together and bringing those guys in. Just so you can, keep building like 1, 2, 3 peats and things like that.
Yeah, man. It's interesting you bring that up because, like, I being around the arena game just from the media perspective, one thing I have noticed is just like not everyone has the same. It feels like some people have different. I don't know how to word it, but just everyone's in it for a different reason, it feels like. And so if you can, some guys are just playing to have fun because they made a roster and they can get paid a little bit of money to play. Some guys are serious about it and want to actually get that championship. Different ownership for different teams is different. Different fan bases are different. But I love that you said they're just like having a similar goal. You're not going to, everyone's not going to mesh all the time on and off the field. But if you have the same goal, you can, and that's just the power of sports. It teaches you how to like work towards a common goal, even when you have different personalities. But what I've always admired about you, DeWayne, is the fact that you give back to the community. And the last time I spoke with you, which, man, for Nation's Best, it must have been a little over a year ago. I don't know. We chatted a while ago, but we talked about how sometimes football feels so much like a business, and like giving back to the community is like a big piece of what you do. Can you talk about that? Because I've watched you. Obviously, I follow you through your social media so I can see what you're up to and stuff. It feels like you're always like hanging around, the kids and just giving back to the community. And can you just talk a little bit about the importance of that?
It's honestly something that I grew up. It's like my childhood growing up, being outside all the time. And remembering it wasn't too many adults out there telling us, or keeping us together. But then when we did get the youth football, and remember those coaches that did everything that they did for us, for me and like siblings and relatives, and the team that we were playing for, that was their thing. Like they would pick us up. They would take us to football practice, make sure that we eat before and after and things like that. Come to get us in youth basketball, have us in youth softball, but always keeping us basically in a position, away from like the streets and away from like, certain things that it was inevitable for us, trying to make sure that they were always feeding us if they could. And that was something that's always on my heart. So growing up through college and, becoming a professional, I realized that it wasn't too many times that I seen those professionals going back out doing it if, they weren't told to do it. And the agent wasn't really pressing them to do it. So it's like I'm a whole professional myself. I remember what that was like. So why not just go out and do it? Like I don't need anybody to really tell me to go out and do it. It's something on my heart. Being baptized, like my pastor told me I was going to be in a position to touch 1,000 more people in the way that I never did before. And basically just a manifestation of that. I don't really see it like really work. I mean, if anything, it's God's work, being in that position, being that messenger, being able to reach out to a lot of these kids, give them that training and not only training, but teaching them the game, the fundamentals of football, letting them know what's going on, what they're going to be dealing with in school, not only in middle school, high school, college, even some of them that will be turned professional. And it's not just the good side. It's like, telling them, letting them know that ugly side of these sports and things like that, and the business side of sports, helping them understand how to build their own, brands, their own, identities and things like that. Because at the end of the day, that since we started playing youth sports, everybody's showing up to pay an admission fee, and that's for us. So why not start gaining your revenue from that? So it's really like showing these same kids the same thing that I've done as a professional with nobody there to help me and show me how to do it. Now that I've walked through it, I can show y'all how to do this, from there. And it's only just building them up and giving them something to work for and push for themselves.
Yes, sir, man. I love that. I think it's so important. Like everything you said right there, if the athletes that are watching this right now they're probably saying, shoot, yeah, that's me. I never really gave back the way I should. I just don't know how to start. I don't know how to even do this. That's where I would encourage you guys. Like, this is the point of my show is like, you get to learn from the guests that I have on the show. So if you're listening to this, you're watching this, perhaps reach out to DeWayne or reach out to myself and I'll see if I can connect you with DeWayne and see if you need help trying to give back to the community and doing some of those things. Maybe you have the aspirations, the desire to do it, but you don't know how. You learn from someone who's been there, and DeWayne taught himself how to do it basically. So it's pretty cool to watch what you're doing. And I want to ask you about your training as well. Like you're obviously a professional athlete, you know how to train. Have you ever training younger athletes and so forth? Are you still doing any of that at the moment, DeWayne?
Yes, sir. I'm so booked with that, basically. And that's usually what my off season goes to. Once we get out of my professional season, I come back to Colorado, and it's really about, getting on these kids and basically letting them know, your training it's essential to your season. You're not going to see too many youth athletes that are, it's going to be some that are just, naturally gifted, the genetic makeup. But then it's going to be some, that are left behind and, they're not even working out until, high school or college. And it's like, imagine if we give them just the essential, just opening up their training with some of the fundamentals of the game, and every one of their positions. Like, it doesn't matter if you're just a skills player or, one of those lineman players. At the end of the day, the training is essential in everyone in your position, and it takes, some of these steps. And it's the same steps that the professionals are doing. It's just a matter of, when you start actually training and making that second nature to you.
So that's what I love that you're giving back in that regard, because a lot of kids that I coach for basketball, a lot of them work hard in the off season, and I'm talking basketball, but in your world, it's football. But like, I see a lot of kids who think that they're just going to get by in the off season without putting in work. And the thing is, DeWayne, is when you see these, especially high school athletes, everyone's bodies develop at a different time. And I see a lot of kids who were dominant as freshmen and sophomores based on their talent and skill set alone. And then all of a sudden, come their senior year, a couple years later, these dudes who were maybe on the freshman team and then the sophomore team, and they were juniors on JV, now they're varsity seniors and they're getting more playing time than those dudes who were starting as freshmen and sophomores. And I see a lot of it because they've been putting in the work. And then once their bodies developed and they were able to like mature, that work plus their bodies developing compounded into an amazing athlete. And I see it a lot actually over here, more than I probably should. And it just speaks to the importance of work and putting in that work and trusting the process and learning from people who have been there like yourself. Right. And so I'm curious if you couldn't, maybe if you could just tell us, for those who are in Colorado, how do they get a hold of you if they want to take, advantage of your services that you have and they want to learn from you? How can they get a hold of you to do so?
Definitely can tap in. I post on my Instagram, Autrey official _5, things like that. Through my social media, I've been working, more and more on, getting cards and things like that out to people. But I really try to make it more so. I don't want to force anybody, as being a trainer or mentor on to anybody. I really try to make it, hey, come out, check me out. Type thing, see what type of training that we're doing and how that translates to your position, your and let alone to the game. But basically, it's really having them kids come out, parents come out, see what we're doing, and then they really go spread it themselves. Honestly, I do post the flyers and things like that on my social media. Basically just letting people know, where I'll be at, Denver metro area, traveling up to them, or, just meeting in a more neutral spot, things like that.
Cool. So what I'll do then is I'll make sure I put this in the description. Obviously, I'll have your Instagram channel there so people can follow you on social media. That's where they're probably going to find out most of the information. So if you're listening to this, just remember that. Question for you too. This is interesting. I wanted to ask you this. I wrote down a couple of questions that I wanted to know. I'm like, what do I want to know from DeWayne that I haven't asked him yet over the last couple of years of just knowing who you are and whatnot? One of them is this: as a professional football player in the arena realm, there's a lot of change that happens. Different organizations, you might get traded, you might, you get signed and you're playing over in Kansas now. Like there's a lot of different, there's different cities all across the board. There's a lot of change that happens. And so I'm just curious, if you could maybe give some advice to other aspiring professional football players. Maybe they want to play in the arena leagues to keep their career going because they still love the game. What would be your biggest piece of advice in regards to change? Like how you can adapt to change like that and be so comfortable with going here to there to wherever?
Yes, sir. Basically, just staying ready, for the next opportunity, with your own working out, whether that's in the weight room or working out in your craft, eyes are always watching you. Some of those coaches are basically always going to be looking, for an athlete that's already, learned the game and he's been being taught, so sometimes when you're getting cut from one organization, it's another organization ready for somebody that's already know that they can bring in right now, basically instead of, just bringing in a rookie that they have to teach for a couple weeks and things like that. So definitely be in that position, always ready for that next opportunity. Is definitely going to have you in that position when that call comes. Hey, you ready to go? Instead of when that call comes, I got to get in the weight room now. I got to go condition to try to get ready to go somewhere. Then you go over there, then you're cut, all over again because you're basically, getting complacent or feeling sorry for yourself, and thinking that, oh, I'm not good enough to, keep going, or asking yourself why. Again, like being spiritually guided, that path is already written. Like, you just need to stay the course and be ready.
I love the whole concept of stay ready, ain't got to get ready kind of mindset, but it's so true because in your sport, like you said, I mean, you could be here one day, this the next, but if you're not ready, then you might find yourself cut from that team. Like it's exactly what you just said. So that's what I've always admired about you is you're always putting in work, understanding that your call could come tomorrow, and you might be gone. That's the thing, and you have another opportunity. You've mentioned a couple of times being spiritually guided, and you mentioned your baptism earlier. I am curious, like how being a Christian athlete has helped you in your professional career in any way? Would you mind sharing anything about that? Because you mentioned how it's, it's a divine plan. And I'm just curious for other Christian athletes that are out there, like how has it helped you? How helped guide you as a professional athlete?
Understanding, like I say, being spiritually guided at times, when I was moving as a young adolescent and as a young man, and trying to do a lot of things through myself and make it happen through myself. It was a lot of hard times and dark times, a lot of depression and a lot of stress, and when I went through that year, in 2019 through 21, basically, uh, and I did give myself over to Christ. Like I didn't have any professional championships just yet. You know, uh, my career it took off. I didn't have the Hawk Fitness. I didn't have my LLCs and my other business with my dogs. But once I started seeing, just turn that over to God, it really started moving, in a better way. And wanting to give back more. I mean, that's really how a lot of my blessings started happening, honestly, and I can't even speak against that. Like that's literally how blessings just started coming in, even with my merch and everything. It really everything just it was just an influx of things, and I'm seeing how God was putting me in a position to be over here, help here. All right, I need you here, help over here. Like okay, I need you to put your hands and give back over here. And that's really how I move and why I didn't question, sometimes like if I was, the situation was going on throughout my professional season. Because I know at times, like, hey, I was coming here to help the community, help give back and, make a stamp. And that's the way, not for me, but, moving for God. And it's happened every year that I've been moving like that. I've been able to go play ball, make a stamp in that community, give back, help with the organization. And it's always been, good, I could say like good living, like, when I'm moving in that way.
I love that, man. I hope any other Christian athlete can just take note of that. Like, it's cool to see how it's impacted your specific career. Like just how his hand has played a role in the little things. It's just the little details of what you do. But when you're cognizant of that, I can speak for myself. When you're cognizant of it being God's plan, it's just different in how you actually take action and you listen to what He's doing and wanting for you. And it's interesting the blessings that He'll pour upon you. So I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome. The little things you just shared right there, that's important for people to know. So as you go into the spring for the AFL season over in Wichita, what does the first couple days look like when you report to camp? I don't even know. I just want to know from like a sports fanatic. I want to know what it looks like.
You get in there, you do your meet and greet with the team, get accustomed to the team and things like that. Get to hang out for that night. And then I'm pretty sure so that next day you come in, you're gonna do the equipment check in, and you should be going right into camp, lining it up. Let's go. Basically because for about past couple of weeks, we've already been getting, coach has already given us our workout regimens, and that's Monday through Friday. Like, as a professional, as an adult, it's no more like based like in college, you had an alarm said, hey, get up weight room. Like, some of us professionals are still, professionally clock, like our clock is like that. Our alarm clock is already set because I don't set an alarm anymore. Like, my mental, my body is already set up, to at getting up at a certain time. So I already know going into season, I'm already be prepared, to get up. And I've played throughout the years to where you either have that morning practice, or that night practice, so the body needs to be ready for that. Definitely. We got our schemes and things like that, and that's how I see it. Some professionals, they already have you ready for that coming into camp, and they'll be able to catch that. Those that's coming into camp not conditioned, you'll be able to see that within the first couple runs, that first day. Those that's coming into camp, that wasn't really, lifting to the issue. You'll see it, with the strength, with going one-on-ones and things like that. and those that really wasn't, paying attention or even watching film to an extent, the terminology and the games are going to be coming to them fast. It isn't going to be as slow to them. And basically that's what you'll be, running into in camp. And you'll see the difference between the vets and some of the rookies and some of the, 2 or 3 year players, who takes it serious, basically, and who's really being professional at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's interesting because, being a professional, it's what it comes down to. You got to be a professional. And some people, like I said, they have their own mindset and goals of what they want to accomplish when they get into like professional football in the arena leagues and stuff. And if you really want to be successful, though, like truly, you got to be professional. You got to come to work on time. You got to put the work in the off season. You got to do those little things just because you made it there. That's just the beginning of it. You still got to come and show up to work and be prepared. So that's interesting to hear too. And, in regards to playing defense, obviously your nickname is Ball Hawk. You have instincts of getting to the ball, right? Like that's just kind of how you've been. Where does that come from? Is that just natural, or does that come from hours and hours on the field through the film room?
Naturally, coming from Texas, like I'm actually an offensive player. I'm a quarterback. And that's what I did going up through my career. I always played quarterback. And then coming up through Texas, there'll be times definitely, be put at tailback. Definitely will be put at receiver and things like that. My coach was C.L. Whittington in high school, but he told me that he played for the Houston Texans. Coach Michael Strahan turned from tight end to, D end. And that was before he walked away in college. But he told me he was going to put 7 positions in my arsenal back in high school. And the reason being, because he said in order to make it and have a long career, when they call on you or, they need, an athlete in that position, would it be better to have you, somebody who's actually, athlete and good and actually can get it done and make plays in that make plays in that position, or somebody, they have to really learn and train up to be a certain star. So he always made me play all these different positions, but I naturally was a quarterback. And being a quarterback, you already know where you want your receivers. You already know what holes you want to hit. And so being back there at safety or being there at corner, it's the same thing. I played receiver, so I know what routes you basically are going to run from where you're lined up on the numbers, top of the numbers, bottom of the numbers. Up there at safety, I'm already understanding what holes you might want to hit. It's almost like, how would I beat myself chest out there? So yeah, it definitely helped. That's why I'm 3 picks away from 60 right now. So that's definitely how that transitioned and how it translated. But a lot of those players, they play both sides of the ball, and so.
Dude, that's actually really cool that you started off on the offensive side of the ball, and how it's translated to your, later on in your professional career, just how you can, see the instincts of other players. 3 away from 60. So what's the plan when you get 60, DeWayne? Like where are we going to dinner? What's going on?
What's next? Honestly, mama mentality. What's next? Honestly, that's how I look at it. It's like I already set the bar for myself, have hit certain milestones in my career. So it's really like, honestly, like do that, keep it going. What's next? Like, getting a professional championship in the AFL, like, how would that, like I'm goal oriented. I see things like that, that 60 mark, like it's right there. So it's only right, basically the work that you put in, like, yeah, you're supposed to hit that mark. Like it was just, certain things happen in your career. You didn't hit it early. Like, that's really how I look at that. Like it's inevitable. It's the path is already, laid out and written. I'm just trying to stay the course, striving to stay the course.
I love it, man. I love it. Question for you on the mental side of things. I was actually just listening to an interview that Dustin Poirier, who's an MMA fighter for the UFC, he just did with Ariel Helwani, and he was talking about his mental health, and just a lot of athletes don't talk about that. I'm just curious, like, how do you keep your mental in check as a professional athlete, DeWayne, where you're always on the move, you're always trying to keep your ducks in a row, you're always trying to give back? How do you make sure that you're giving yourself time to stay right?
First and foremost, sometimes you definitely gonna have to sit down and talk to God. and give those things that you're going through up to him, because really that's when things are out of your hands as a person, what are we left to do? Give them up to a high power. But you always definitely have, having God in your corner, having those right people in your circle, and it doesn't have to be family. I'm talking about having those day ones and day twos. Those day ones to remind you of who you are and what you came from. Those day twos to remind you of, hey, this is the path we're on now. Like these are the goals that we set now. Like these are the things that we are trying to have accomplished and everything like that. So it helps you be in that position and know it's going to be hard sometimes, but you got this. We got this. Yeah. And it definitely takes a village. And then also get into health. Whether that's mental health awareness classes, whether that's depression classes or things like that. Like getting the help isn't wrong. We're so accustomed to doing things ourselves and not reaching out for help or letting somebody know like I'm not okay or I need help because it's so real. And definitely, me being one that I have no problem with, because I set my boundaries and these are the reasons why, because I have learned to take that time to myself and set those boundaries so my mental health is right, because I want to be in that position when I go work out or train with these kids to give back to them the right way and not be thinking about the wrong thing that might have happened early in the day. I've learned to, be in the gym at times with those just in the steam room or doing yoga and things like that, that self-awareness, like really self-care, like it helps so much in that with the mental health.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared all that because I think people neglect it. And some of the time they just neglect it because they're not used to it. They'll take care of their physical health. They'll go to a gym. But when it comes to their mental health, maybe they just don't. I mean, I see it a lot, actually, but especially athletes, but they just don't want to go get help. But there is help there. You can take care of that just like you can take care of your physical health. I want to get to know DeWayne Ballhawk Autrey off the field. What are like two of your favorite things to do off the field that don't pertain to football?
Be with my kids, honestly. Be with my kids and literally really giving back to kids. Honestly, like those right now, like where I'm at 34, like those are the biggest things like in my life. Like, being so family oriented coming up. It was something that I miss being that I left home in 2008. I wasn't in a position to always go back home and see family and friends. So right now, growing up, without my father and in the same household, those are my biggest things in life. Like when I'm not in football or not playing football, like my teammates, coaches can attest to that. Hey, I'm putting my money in my gas tank. I'm driving from whatever state that I'm in to go see my boys. Because I have my oldest there here in Colorado, and my youngest, he's there in Kansas. So that's really what I'm going. My time consists of being on the road, going to see my boys. When I'm not on the road, I'm training the kids right now because it's like I understand, like, man, that whole like going out, hanging out things. Like I've been there, high school, college. That first 5 years of your professional career. Like really doing all the most, and so it's like I've been there, I've done that. Maturely, respectfully, I've been there, I've done that, and I know you don't get time back. So that's what I'm saying. Like the biggest things that I do outside of football is really like I'm right there with my kids and right there training other kids and just going to see them play other sports and things like that. Like really just showing up.
Man, I relate to that on so many levels. When you become a dad, which I am, me and you are about the same age. I'm 35, but when you become a dad, my oldest is 7. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old as well. And so, like, when you become a dad, things change. Like, I was telling my friends, DeWayne, like, the other day, one of my favorite things to do now, like, when I'm not coaching, if I'm not working, is literally just hang out with my kids. I enjoy being around my kids. Like I love they're my best friends. And it sounds stupid. People are like, oh no, that's not true. You still got I'm like, nah, dude, my kids are my best. I enjoy sitting there and playing Madden with my 7-year-old. I enjoy playing, Hulk smash, like pretending that we're fighting with my 4-year-old. I love that stuff. Like it's fun to me. And so it's cool to hear you say just like you want to be around them and be a good, father figure. And that's like what you enjoy doing with your time genuinely, which is super cool. Cause I think there's a lot of people that need to learn that lesson, quite honestly.
Hey, it's different times. So, but I like how it shifted. We do see, you can attest to it. You do see more fathers now in this day and age that are like that. There's more fathers that are like that now. I care more to be a father to my child, and be there around my child and getting that time and just those moments, with my child, or seeing these other kids that I am a mentor to, seeing them, basically just have fun, that smile on their face instead of them walking around, acting out, not because they're bad, acting out maybe because you're hungry, acting out maybe because, you got to hear some, whatever you got to hear at home. But it's like, I was that kid. Now I'm that professional and mentor, and I can look at you and see that. So why not step in? Hey, like, come rock with me. Let's go train. Let's go hang out. Let's go do this. Even with my own kids, like, remember, can't tell you one time my father, played the game with me, came back, hung out, trained, or, hooped or played basketball or football. So it's knowing those things and remembering those things. That's why it's so important, and why I strive to do it so much, because it's like, I can't, I just can't, like, let my boys, like, have that feeling, that, because I remember those days at 10 and 11, I remember those days vividly. And a lot of these kids, like, it's going to be some things they remember. So if I'm in that position to give them a better memory, like, that's what I will do. Like, that's why I try to do that, to stand on that.
Oh, I love that. There's a guy I know. His name's Ed Milet, and he's a motivational speaker. I met him at a work event that we had, and he talked about in his like keynote speech about the transformative figure. And there's every family has that one, the power of the one person that changes like the course of their family's trajectory forever, whether it be financially or whether it be spiritually or whether it be whatever, right? And it sounds like you're sharing in a sense something similar, because that's not what you had, and you want to change that. You want to change the trajectory.
Curse. It's the generational curse, definitely. Mother of my kids, like, it's something that they both can attest to. Like, when it came to our children, my main thing is, hey, like, regardless of what's going on, good or bad, like, we're breaking the generational curse. Like, and as long as we can agree to that, like, we should be moving forward, and everything. Our kids don't have to ask for nothing, but it's definitely overstanding something that I went through. And from the moment that I became a parent, like, I always knew, like, I don't care if I don't do anything else, I'm going to break the generational curse for my kids, and they'll be able to do, some of those things that I was successful at, at being a parent, and a father at times, they'll be able to be successful at. And that's, if I'm able to do that, and see them, married, underneath one roof with their family and everything together, and I'm like, my job was done. Like, but that's definitely what I'm striving, standing on, doing above all else. And I got to break that generational curse.
Yes, sir, man. But you're doing it, and I love it. I love hearing that. Now, DeWayne, as we get to the end of the interview, I want to just get your opinion on a couple of things. So you've played professional football for over a decade. I mean, you've been doing it for a while, and there's a lot of life lessons. So I want to know, the first question is, what's the biggest life lesson that football has taught you? And then the second question to follow up with that is, what's the next steps? How long do you see yourself playing for, continuing to play for? And then what's the next steps for DeWayne Ballhawk Autrey?
Okay. So first question again.
What's the biggest life lesson that football has taught you up until this point?
Biggest life lesson is perseverance. Perseverance, honestly. But that's why football and sports are what they are. They mold you. They they define you. They teach you, and they build that confidence and things like that. because a lot of things that I went through as a child, and the fact that I was playing youth football, and that was my outlet. That's literally it's what saved my life. Like it put me in a position that I didn't know I would be in later on in life. With those same losses that I dealt with as a kid that I wasn't specifically supposed to endure, and understand and comprehend. I've dealt with that as a professional, and it put me in a position to, like I say, keep going. Because where some people, um, you know, even in my tenure, have been able to have that excuse, like, "Hey, I'm having child." Well, I did that. Some, I just had a loss of a family member. Well, I was in college and, lost my mom and had my son 2 weeks later and turned him professional a month after that. So, but a lot of things that I endured younger, it put me in a position to persevere and keep going because I have no excuse. I can't go back. I have nobody else to turn to. So even as a parent and a father now, it helped me to understand to keep going. So that's the answer to that one. That's true perseverance. Like that's what the playing as a professional, it helped me understand and see that even more.
Man, that's awesome. That's something that I hope that everybody rewinds and listens to again. And I'll probably clip that out for social media too, so we can share a little bit of that too. That's super important for people to know. So the last question is, like I said before, is what's next? How long do you see yourself playing for, and what's the next steps for DeWayne Ballhawk Autrey?
Yeah, see, the thing was, see the little, I got the rings and everything, they already there in the career, so I don't really see I told myself, honestly, I was going to stop playing when I had 12 championship rings because I've set the bar for my family. I've set the bar for my last name already when it comes to those, youth rings and professional rings. But I kind of like that's over. It's not over with because it's like I'm in a position like I know I'm in my prime. I'm in my prime. I only got better as the game has changed. I progressed with it. I went and got better training. I went and pushed myself harder to make sure that I'm able to, progress and change with the game. But like I said, being in that position and seeing what God is doing, like I'm like, getting my own facility, things like that. I help at A&B Wellness, and that's a facility that's in the Denver metro area, and they're doing exactly, what I've only wished to and strive to do for myself. But it's like being in those positions, being in those rooms, networking and things like that. I understand like this is all it, Like I've been doing the training for the past couple of years, building my name, networking, and things like that. So I understand, like when that time comes and that's going to be on God, like I feel like I'm gonna walk right into it, just like I need to be. I feel like things are already, slowing down because I'm at a point in my career. It's like, well, what else are we doing? Honestly. But when it comes to outside of being the professional season, I'm like, man, I get so much more out of right now being a father, seeing these moments with my kids. I get so much more out of, training these kids and seeing them develop and progress. So I know you don't have to ask what's next. That feeling that you get when you're out there doing that and you're involved with these kids, that's it right there. So it's like, it's already set up. Like, I just got to stay the course.
Man, I'm rooting for you. It's cool to hear, like you've got your football, but you've like you said, you've kind of achieved what you wanted to achieve from the accolade standpoint, and you got the trophies and the rings. You're going to continue to play, but you got the other stuff going for you too.
Yeah,
and
it's
like
knowing, like I said, winning those championships, man, it wasn't pretty, playing 10 years, like I would say, like my body is fine. It's not my body I'm worried about. It's my mental,
Yeah.
So being in that position, and I know how much I want to give back. Like I would much rather, like it's 12 months in a year. You got 4 months to play, 4 or 5 months in the season. Now the rest of that off season, how much time you are really involved with the community and involved with these kids. So if your mental and your spirit isn't right, like how are you gonna, pour into them the right way? So that's what I'm saying. Like it put me in a position where I'm okay with, playing my season, like, things gonna happen. But the rest of that year, man, like I love the fact that I love that part of the year, like really like training them kids and like seeing them ball, and inspiring them and mentoring them and guiding them the right way. And that's just, I get more out of that right now where I am in life than I do, being on the field. I do that. That's where I'm at in my career, and I'm not speaking for other players, vets or rookies, because we all love our kids and we all love what we're doing, but it's just where I'm at in my career.
Totally, man. I love it. I love hearing it, man. And whatever you are doing and whatever part of your life you're in, dude, I'll be rooting for you. And I know the people who are listening to this will also do the same. And just want to say thanks again, man. Thanks for making the time. Yeah, man. It was a blast chatting with you, DeWayne. I'm going to put your Instagram links here. Sorry, the Instagram and even TikTok, all your socials here in the description of the podcast. And so we can follow the rest of your journey, because by the time this launches, you'll probably be ready to start the season here at the end of the month. So
yeah, man. Yeah. Leave this week. Go see little man, my oldest boys. They have their first 7-on-7 tournament in Iowa. So I'll be going from Kansas to Iowa, coming right back to Colorado. We got a couple of days to train the kids up. This following weekend, we got the Colorado Youth Invitational, and they'll be doing that at the CU Boulder indoor practice facility. So, and then literally the week after that, I'm training kids up again, and I'm leaving for a training camp. So, booked, busy, and on the go. But I'm definitely blessed to be and thankful to have a schedule like that, than to have, like nothing on my schedule and just thinking, and really not having nothing to do.
Totally, man.
That's my job. Like, this is my business. So.
And it's kind of goes back to that's what God had in store for you. He's putting these things in your steps so that you can go and do that. Like, it's right there for you in your path. And so I love it, man. I just want to say thanks again. And I appreciate you joining the show. And for all those who are listening, again, if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I just encourage you guys to hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, hit the follow button, and just stay tuned, because we'll be coming to you next week with another interview. So take care.
Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.